Here at 8:27, we want to update you on that breaking news we've been talking about this morning. Firefighters are on the scene battling that house fire in Old Louisville in the 1100 block of South 2nd Street. Right now, we know that at least 2 people have already been taken to the hospital. We want to get straight to our Julia Rose, who is live at that very active scene there. Julia?
Well, Kelsey, a horrific scene here at South 2nd Street. I'll step out of the way so you can see it for yourself. Dozens of firefighters here, along with police, working to put out this house fire. You can see the heavy smoke, even some flames, and of course, all of the water all up at the top of that house. Crews are working really hard to put it out. I saw at least 3 people rescued from the house. In talking with neighbors, they say they saw at least 4, so it's not clear how many people have been removed, and it's also not clear if anyone is left inside. At one point, firefighters were told to evacuate. They started sounding the horn. All firefighters had to evacuate, but then they did go back inside to rescue a woman. A very, very horrific scene here. We, again, are not sure exactly how many people were taken to the hospital and how many people were inside, but we do know it was a 3-apartment unit, but neighbors say only 2 were occupied. We're working to get all of the information for you, and we'll bring you updates as soon as we learn more. Kelsey, back to you.
Well, the scene has just worsened, folks, and it is a sad development. Take a look. Fire, huge flames now coming from the rooftop. Sky 11 is zoomed in on the rooftop of the Whiskey Row project. Gives you an idea of just how intense this thing has been underway. We're seeing for the first time shooting through the roof. This, once again, is going to be with us for quite a while.
That's right. And just a few moments ago, it seemed the smoke had begun to dissipate just a little bit. And then within a few moments, we saw those flames shooting from the roof there. The black smoke is back. As Doug said, this is going to be with us for a while. You see crews right there. We saw them on the a roof that was next to it trying to shoot water on it. You see all the water going towards the roof there right now. Again, this is a vacant building. You can see debris shooting from the sky there, or from the rooftop there.
And they're across the way putting flames on it. Also, Jared Heil punched up one of our Louisville Metro cameras, and it's giving us a different perspective from a bit of a distance, showing the flames coming up. If we can switch that, take a look at this. There's the Humana Waterside building on your right to the east, and right in the middle of this Whiskey Row project, toward the end, toward First Street, the inferno has come out. Now, we've seen a lot of fires. Once it gets into this point, I mean, it becomes nearly out of control.
Well, it was already out of control. They had never gotten it under control to begin with when our Kayla Moody was down on the ground out there, and now we're seeing these flames. Here's our first ground view of the flames shooting there from that roof, from this vacant building right there on Whiskey Row. And this is just incredible pictures we're seeing right here. And
you're now at Inferno stage coming out of the rooftop there.
And you know what's been amazing is the history of this building. So many people fought to preserve all of this. Almost $5 million went into trying to save this strip of downtown Louisville, these historic buildings,
that's what they
original
did.
facades, everything.
That's the cost they paid. Steve Wilson and Laura Lee Brown and a group of investors paid for these buildings to save them from demolition. They put new rooftops on them, and now you've had a fire broke out. The first reports of smoke came in just before we were going on the air at 5 o'clock. Originally, it came out as a report of possibly dust from construction. When firefighters got down there, they realized it was not dust. And I mean, they're putting a lot of water on it. We're taking a very tight view here, but this is a huge amount of flames coming out of the top now.
Not in control right now. Again, we're showing you these live pictures from Sky 11, downtown Whiskey Row, Main Street, the heart of downtown Louisville, really. You can see the flames coming from the roof. Within the last few minutes, this whole scene has changed drastically. They just moved the media crews and many of the spectators. They moved them back a block to Market Street for their own safety. And just about 15 minutes ago or so, they were talking about a partial collapse, and we could see why they may have been talking about this from the pictures we're seeing now.
Now you have the water going heavy into the front. So if we see a collapse of these buildings, generally what you're going to see is obviously where the flame, oh look, coming right out of the front now for the first time. These facades may go any moment if we do see a collapse right there in the end. On the far right, those are just facades only. There is no building structure behind it, so the fire can go to that firewall. It has nothing to burn beyond the facades. To the left, I'm sure they're very concerned, because then you have the restaurants that begin, O'Shea's and Doc Crow's, and the other buildings there toward the Center.
The buildings are also very close right there. If you're talking about a partial collapse, I mean, the damage is just...
Well, let's go to Kayla Moody. She is on the ground. She's been moved to Market Street. Kayla, I know you're witnessing this from the ground. It's quite a scene.
Well, Doug, I'll tell you what, I've never seen anything quite like this. Right now, we're more than 50 feet away from this building. This is the third time that we've been moved in fear that this building could collapse. Now, take a look behind me. You can see just how far we are away from the scene. We can feel those flames that are shooting out of that building. We can feel the heat from them. We're all over here sweating because that fire is so strong. Most of us are talking about how just, in all the fires that all of us have covered before in this media staging area, none of us have ever really seen anything quite like this. Again, when we first arrived on scene, it was just smoke that we saw billowing from the windows, billowing from the top of the building. And then all of a sudden, just moments ago, this huge flame just shot up from the roof out of nowhere, seemingly. And then now you can see the flames inside the building. It does appear that fire crews are very afraid that this building could collapse. We were told when we were standing closer that we were in the collapse zone. This is, again, the third time we've been moved. We are more than 50 feet away. They've roped off everyone around the area, keeping everyone away because if that building falls, they think it will fall forward, but they're not quite sure. Now, as these flames are flying out the top of the building, you can actually see debris coming up with them. I've seen pieces of wood, lumber going up in the air. And then, of course, you can see all the water that they're pouring in on this. It looks like they're pouring it in from at least 2, 3, maybe even 4 directions right now. They're trying to just get as much water on this building as they can. Again, what we know so far is that no one was inside this building when this fire broke out. We do know that there's been lots of construction going on in this area in an attempt to renovate these very buildings that are on fire. But again, we do not know if any construction work was happening today. We do know that no construction work was happening inside the building. However, we don't know if anyone was working outside. We have not received any official information from fire crews right now. We do know this is still a defensive operation. No firefighters have been inside the building. No one has been hurt. Right now they have EMS on standby just in case something happens to a firefighter. Again, this is a very dangerous situation that they're in. It's very dangerous for the firefighters who are operating this, and it looks like we're about to get updated. So I will get some more information right now, and I will bring you guys an update. Or if you want to roll on this live, just Lena, if you could just let me know in my ear if you guys want to roll on this right now. We're going to get an update from the fire captain. All right. This will be Sal Melendez with the fire department, Captain Sal Melendez.
Tony, are you gonna periscope this? Tony. About to get an update from
1 second.
Right now the fire captain is getting ready to brief the media. We're going to take him live as soon as he starts talking. This will be our first time getting official information on this fire. Again, we just saw flames shooting at the top, and the last thing that we were told was that this was still a defensive operation. Fire crews had not been inside the building yet. We do know that everyone was out of the building. No one was inside the building when it started. It does look like the flames have died down a little bit since we saw them moments ago shooting outside, but still a very active fire, still a very active situation. Right now we're getting ready to hear from Captain Sal Melendez. He's getting ready to brief us right now.
Otherwise, I'm going to be making a lot of noise. All right. Here we go.
All right, here we go. Update from Sal Melendez. Fire is right behind us.
We ready? Roll. All right. We're ready.
All right, what's going on?
All right. We were dispatched here at 4:30 this afternoon to a report of a structure fire. We arrived to find heavy fire and smoke coming from the basement and also the first floor of this 4-story high-rise, 4-story multi-occupancy building is what it is. At this time, it appears that the building was in the process of being renovated. This is part of the Main Street revitalization project that's going on. We were speaking to the proprietors, and they said that renovation work began about 2 weeks ago, and so there's a lot of open floor spaces inside the structure where the fire began. The fire did start in the basement of the building. It appears at this time, the building is a 6-story building from the back. 4 are above above grade. It has 2 subfloors underground with 5 floors on the front side. So 4 floors that are above grade, and very, very tall stories in this type of building, which makes firefighting efforts extremely difficult. The amount of fire that we had from the beginning was very large, which prompted us from the very beginning to issue a 2-alarm fire from the very beginning. And we did not go inside the structure to try to fight it from the inside. We went to what we call defensive operations almost from the very beginning, and the goal of that is to make sure that the fire, once we've assessed the amount of fire that we're dealing with, the main goal of that is to ensure that the adjacent properties, all of the surrounding buildings, are protected. And so at this time, it appears that we are achieving that goal. Initially, just to kind of clarify, there are 3 buildings that are involved and have been involved from the beginning. The difference has been the fire was on the first floors. I'm counting the basement here, from the first floor and the first visible floor above ground. So 2 floors were engulfed in flames. It appears at this point that it has communicated up through all the floors, all the involving floors, and that has a lot to do with the fact that we could not gain access, number one, and again, like I said earlier, because of the amount of fire, I don't believe that even if we were able to have gained access, that we would have sent any firefighters inside, especially after knowing that the building was vacant, was unoccupied. Some of the things that we have done in order to ensure safety in the surrounding with the surrounding occupants is that some of the adjacent businesses and occupants were asked to evacuate. Some of them across the street, like the restaurant in Pelos Aires, they voluntarily evacuated and they sent everybody home. So the Humana building, which is across the street on Main, across the street on First, they've decided we advise them to shelter in place. So that building is not in any danger, and we have it at this point contained to the 3 original buildings. Go ahead, sir. So again, no one is injured. A heavy amount of fire from the very beginning, and of course, although we take a lot of pride in protecting property and life, because of that pride is that we decided to assess the safety of our members and ensure that no one went in, just because of the volume of fire we were dealing with and the type of structure we are dealing with.
Is there a main concern that the facade could fall down? And secondly, is there a big effort to save it, because that's the big part of Whiskey Row?
Yes and yes. There's a big concern that's a possibility. It's been burning for a while. Like I said, we've been here since 4:30, and there's no telling by the time the smoke and fire started to come out how long it had been burning. So again, we knew from the beginning that it had been burning for some time to have that amount of fire. So that is a concern. That is, we're bracing for a potential collapse, and of course with that's not something that we can control. We're doing our best to ensure that doesn't happen by containing the fire. The other thing that I was going to mention is, like I said, no one has been injured. Our firefighters at this time report to be okay. Of course, we're dealing with heat and a very labor-intensive operation going on here. So again, the adjacent businesses have been evacuated. No injuries have been reported. And again, we're still in defensive mode. The fire's still burning, and so we're still continuing, as you could hear, to try to extinguish it.
How many crews do you think are fighting this fire?
Yes, I was going to get to that. Like I said, initially we had about 50 firefighters here, which was constituted a 2nd alarm. That has now become a 3rd alarm. This is now officially a 3rd alarm fire, which is a number of 75 firefighters total. So I'm not going to give you the number of units, but it's multiple units, fire units, putting water on this fire. So
Sal, was construction actually happening in the buildings today?
according to the owners, it did. They were doing some work today. We are not sure as to the type of tools or the type of work that was being done. They did confirm that power tools were being used. Don't know what type of tools were being used, whether it was torches or saws or anything that could have generated a spark. So we're not going to go there. We don't know. But the work was going on. Renovation has been going on for the last 2 weeks, and as of 3 o'clock today, they were still here, and that's the last time that they had a report that anybody was here doing some work. So since then, like when we arrived, the building was vacant.
When you say the 3 buildings involved, did it start in one of them, and then when you got here, it was already spread to the 3?
We could see fire coming from, as you're looking, the majority of the fire was concentrated from the main center building, in that first floor, in that basement, both the front and the rear. And so this building is about 200 feet long when you go to the rear, because it goes all the way up to the alley. So all of that had fire and smoke, had heavy smoke coming out from the very beginning. So that tells us that in order for that kind of room, that kind of space to be filled with smoke, there's a pretty great amount of fire going on at that time. So we're not going to risk our members into going into a situation like that.
And then are the 2 next to that
The
building?
2 are very adjacent to it, and the plan is, from our understanding, is that it was going to be, like I said, a multi-occupancy, whether it was businesses, apartments, restaurants, office space, that and the like. That's what was going to be housed in this as part of this project.
You say it's about 200 feet deep. About how wide would you estimate? 100 feet?
It looks to be about 100 feet wide. So it's, like I said, I can't stress enough the importance of why we're doing what we're doing. It may appear to you that we're just, we're getting what we call elevated master streams. You all were here in the front, but we had a lot of fire going through the back that we had firefighters, attacking that fire from the rear also.
Did they specify on what floor that work was being done?
They did not. They did not specify which floor. All right.
I'm just confused a bit. Is it all one building, or are they 3 separate?
See where that farthest place to the left are?
And again, that update from Captain Sal Melendez, now saying that they are bracing for a collapse here at the Whiskey Row building. They have said that this is a 3-alarm fire. There are around 75 firefighters working to fight this blaze. Again, this is still a defensive operation. No firefighters have been inside. They said the fire is just too strong, too rapid to put anyone inside this building. He has confirmed that there are no injuries. No firefighters have been harmed, and everyone else was evacuated from the premises and from the surrounding buildings. But again, you can still see flames coming out of this building. But I'm going to toss back to you guys now at the desk. Again, we did just hear that update from Captain Sal Melendez with the Louisville Fire Department.
All right, thank you, Kayla. Once again, confirming construction work, restoration work was underway. Of course, Whiskey Row trying to make the big comeback in downtown Louisville, and quite a setback as we're watching it live here tonight. There's those flames still intense, Renee, even when we first saw them break through the roof within the last 30 minutes.
The renovation work had been going on there for about the past 2 weeks. Sal Melendez there with Louisville Fire Department said he wasn't sure what floor the work was actually going on, but we know the fire started in the basement area of one of those buildings. Stay with us. We'll continue to follow this right after the break.